Did you see the WNBA All-Stars come out on the court? Both teams on Saturday wore T-shirts that said, "Pay us what you owe us." Are WNBA stars getting ripped off? Some metrics say they're overpaid. Some suggest the investment is just getting good, so pay up, league owners, and don't screw it up. Former ESPN analyst and host and podcaster, writer for The Atlantic, Jemele Hill, is standing by. We're going to talk to her in just a second. But Hot Mics today, sponsored by LA Golf, the most technologically advanced golf gear on the market. Everything that they create and make is designed by Bryson DeChambeau, who actually had one of the most incredible days on Sunday when he rallied back and shot a 64 at Royal Portrush in the British Open, or the Open Championship, which was won by Scottie Scheffler. But all his clubs designed himself at LA Golf, and they're available to you. All you got to do is go to lagolf.com and fill out your swing speed and get a custom driver for yourself. The putters are incredible. Seriously, it's the best gear on the market, and so we're happy to have them as our sponsor. Well, the WNBA All-Star Game took place in Caitlin Clark's hometown of Indianapolis, though Caitlin did not play due to a re-aggravated groin injury earlier that week. So no WNBA player has simultaneously dominated the court and the zeitgeist in the league's 30-year history like Caitlin Clark. No way. She's been a godsend for a league that is 30 years old and still unprofitable, which people keep pointing out. Ratings are up, though. When she's playing, they're up big time, and about half as much when she's not playing. So they're up across the board. But like Cardi B says, if it's up, then it's up, then it's up, then it's up. The game was as horrible as a men's NBA All-Star game. Zero defense, lots of scoring, like double the amount of scoring. Team Clark, Caitlin was the captain, even though she didn't play, lost to Team Collier 151 to 131. The most talked about moment was when the two teams walked out pre-game for warm-ups. They were all wearing the same T-shirt that read, "Pay us what you owe us." The debate on that has begun. Pay us what you owe us or pay us what you're worth. Jemele Hill put out a little post today. On Saturday. Funny how all that protect women's sports energy went out the window as soon as WNBA players showed up with T-shirts bringing awareness to the lack of financial equity they have in their league. Pleased to welcome Jemele back to Hot Mics. How you doing, Jemele?
I'm doing great. And before we get into our conversation, let me just say I've been using the LA Golf putter that you wonderfully sent me. It is money. In fact, I just played the other day. My husband and I, we both started our golf journey at the same time. Whooped him by 6 strokes, and he's still smarting from it. So, thank you, LA Golf.
Now, when you play golf with your husband, Jemele, what do you win? Since you beat him, did he have to cook dinner that night? Did he have to order dinner? Did he have to pick up his shit off the floor? What did he have to do?
So he created this. We have a trophy in our house that when we compete at things, the trophy changes possession. So me having to get the trophy, him having to present me with the trophy because I beat him at golf was very rewarding.
Ah, beautiful. Good. So does he ever win? I mean, 6 strokes is a smackdown. You're like Scottie Scheffler on the rest of the field there.
He does. We go back and forth quite a bit. And
Okay.
it actually makes me really thankful that we started our journey at the same time, because in a lot of situations, usually it's the men who begin golfing earlier than maybe some of their spouses or their partners. And because we began at the same time, that means that our levels are constantly kind of around the same place.
Yeah.
So it makes it for more interesting competition.
Fantastic. We'll keep beating them. Jemele,
Yeah.
do the WNBA players deserve more money, even though the league isn't making money?
They do. And I know for a lot of people who have focused on that statistic you said that it's not profitable, I want people to understand this in context. The NBA was not profitable for over 40 years, maybe about 45. The NFL was not profitable for 50 years. Did player salaries go down? No, they continued to go up. And what I would say that people have to understand that one, the WNBA players are not asking to be paid the same amount as NBA players. They're asking for a higher percentage of the revenue. Currently, they get 9%. That is absurdly low. Now, we know, say, for example, that UFC, they have a very notorious reputation for not paying their fighters, right? That this has been a long-standing battle in that league. The UFC fighters are getting 18%. Of the professional sports leagues, the WNBA is pretty much at the lowest. So, yes, they deserve more money. And people have to understand the moment that the WNBA is in. I know people heard the fact that they're losing 40 to 50 million dollars, or that was the case for 2024. Do I don't know why people always believe it when we see numbers like that. And this is what I mean. So in 2011, when the NBA was in a lockout, the owners claimed that they were losing $1 billion. When it was 1999 and there was another lockout in the NBA, the owner said that 80% of the NBA teams were not profitable. It's so funny how every time there is a labor negotiation that we suddenly get this story out of nowhere from a league source that tells the media, oh, they're not making any money. Now, I would just ask people to put on their critical thinking caps. If the WNBA is such a bad investment, how is it that they're adding 5 teams by 2030? How is it that the Valkyries, the Golden State Valkyries, the latest expansion team in their first year, the valuation for the team is $500 million.
Is it
So,
really?
yes, it is. It's the highest valuation for a women's sports team, professional women's sports team ever.
And there's expansion teams coming on. Toronto, so the WNBA is going
Toronto,
international.
Detroit, Philly, Portland, they're all coming by 2030.
And
So again, if this investment, if they're losing as much money as they say, and listen, all business owners know this. You can make the books look however you want them to look. Most businesses like to operate at a loss because of what? It's a great tax break, right?
tax break.
Steve Ballmer in 2021, here's a little another fun fact you can repeat at parties. He paid less taxes than LeBron James. Steve Ballmer is worth 130 billion. You know how he did it? He claimed he lost $700 million with the Clippers. So if the Clippers, a team that he bought at the time for a record $2 billion, the money is in the valuation. The money is in that's where people need to be focused on is what are these teams worth? A $2.2 billion rights deal that the WNBA will start next season, where they'll get $200 million a year. And listen, I'm not calling anybody a liar, but what I am saying is that billionaires have a way when it's labor negotiation of creating narratives around how much money they're losing, and yet they tear a ACL to buy a team every time one is open. So
Yeah.
you tell me this, is it a bad investment or not?
Well,
Probably it's a good one.
they say the best investment in the world now is sports team ownership. I keep looking into the weeds for like, what's a sport that could be next? I have friends, a couple guys who bought a squash team. I'm like, really? I mean, like, I don't know. We want to be in sports ownership. So they bought it. I was up in Maine on vacation recently. Jemele, I saw women's roller derby. Now, when I grew up, I'm an old fart. We had roller derby. It was amazing. They had like like the track was like a berm, it was like a velodrome, and they would go around there knocking each other out. I watched women who have regular jobs during the day compete in roller derby. It is the most fascinating thing. It's on my Instagram, and Howie Mandel, who is my landlord here at Hot Mike's, he is trying to find a way to buy a women's roller derby team with me. We want to be co-owners of this, and I don't want men's. I saw the women. I don't even want to see the men go. The women were unbelievable. So keep an eye out. Maybe you'll get a Washington team. You're down there, right?
I'm here in Los Angeles, so you already know.
Oh, you're back.
Has
You're
been
in LA. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm here
That's
in
going to
Los
be
Angeles.
expensive. That's
Yeah,
going to be
but I mean,
expensive.
but nevertheless, you hit on something that is very true across the board for women's sports. Last year in 2024 was the first year that women's sports generated $1 billion in revenue. And part of the reason is because there's still an access and an entry point for women's sports. It's probably pretty difficult to be able to buy a piece of an NBA team or NFL team, especially because those are very, very expensive. But where there is an access point for people with a lot of money, for people who fall in love with the game or the sport, just as you did with roller derby, there is an access point that is there. And so the WNBA is offering that. You also have somebody who's a superstar, a supernova like Caitlin Clark. You have Juju Watkins, who will be there in a couple years. You
Yep.
have a very exciting young class of talent that is there. And with merchandise sales being up over 300%, ticket sales being up as much as they are. Viewership, everything about this sport is pointing in the direction that it is trending so far north. So, from a point of negotiation, you don't wait till after they make the money. You do it now. And that's why they're saying, pay us what you owe us.
Will Caitlin Clark be to thank mostly when the pay goes up?
I think what Caitlin Clark did was sped everything up. And the WNBA was definitely trending northward, but were they trending northward to this extreme? No. But I think it works the same. It has worked the same to some degree in all the professional sports league. Listen, the moment for the NBA was Magic and Bird. Before that, the NBA Finals was on tape delay. And in the early 70s, in the early 70s and the late 70s, and really a little bit part of the 80s, the NBA had a very bad reputation. The ratings were bad. They were losing money. There was a rampant drug problem in the league, and Magic and Bird kind of brought them out of that.
Yeah.
I would argue, I think quite successfully, that the WNBA at 28 years old is in a much better, healthier shape than any of the professional men's leagues were. And so right now it makes a lot of sense that the women want to take advantage of this. And it's also a good investment. The whole reason Brittany Griner wound up in Russia and being detained for a year in a Russian prison is because she had to make money in Russia playing ball, right? So you don't want your best athletes to be going overseas. And then, by the way, it should be sort of insulting the fact that Russia, with its track record for human rights, with its bad track record, that they are willing to pay women seven figures to play ball there, and we're not.
Yeah, it's
That's
kind of
what.
fun. Angel,
Yeah.
you've talked about Bird and Magic. I mean, Angel Reese has sort of staked out a rivalry with Caitlin. It's unclear, like Bird and Magic, if Caitlin is reciprocating as much in that. But Angel's definitely, there was a video she posted on Friday, the day before the WNBA game. She's in Indianapolis. She's driving through. She's launching her new shoe line with Reebok, and she's like, "I'm in your city," and she's baiting her but.
Well, I think part
That's
of that
good, right? I mean,
no,
we need a rivalry.
It is good, but part of that was just the fact that there was this idea that Angel Reese would not be welcome in Indianapolis, and that was far from the case, as was all the players that were there. And listen, Angel Reese is part of this explosion that we're seeing happen, is that sports require tension. Now, they don't need some of the racial tension, and that is mostly coming from other people that has been a part of this conversation. But I think in general, part of the reason you love sports is because you love the tension between players. People have gotten so caught up into whether or not they like each other. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Do you guys care if male players like each other? You don't. You actually like it when they don't like each other.
Yeah.
So I don't care if these women actually get along or if they don't. I care about them developing and continuing to grow the WNBA product.
Yeah, I mean, was there racial tension as much with Bird and Magic? It had to be underlying. Certainly, it was.
Yeah, I think the tension between them was basically everybody else's projection. I mean, you had a lot of things at play. You had East Coast versus West Coast. You had Showtime versus supposedly more of a blue collar type of team in Boston. You had Larry Bird being, what they used to call him, the hick from French Lick. And even though, by the way, I went to Michigan State just like Magic did, not at the same time though. And East Lansing, Michigan, it ain't exactly New York City, okay? But nevertheless, there was this idea that you had this rural country boy versus this big glamorous superstar in Magic Johnson. And those tensions, they work in America, whether we want to admit it or not.
But the rap community embraced Eminem. Golf certainly embraced Tiger Woods. There is this sense that Caitlin is persona non grata with so many players, like there's some kind of jealousy in here. But if you find your way to work against her or work with her, I think everybody does. She's like the Howard Stern of basketball. How everyone in radio did better when Howard Stern started getting paid huge amounts of money.
I think, and that was why it was really interesting to see. I hope people paid attention to a lot of the players' social media pages. I think this whole jealousy narrative has been really overblown, and they're competitors. Okay, that's number one. And some of this has been this sort of idea that people have about how women are supposed to compete. And yeah, they're going to compete hard. No, they do not want to be embarrassed by Caitlin Clark. So yes, they're going to get physical with her because that's what you do with somebody who's a shooter. It is very simple basketball. And what you saw over the course of the weekend is how beloved Caitlin Clark is among the players. She was hanging out. She was at the club with them. She was getting drunk. I mean, it was a good time when you watched to see how the players were fraternizing with one another. Again, competitors on the court, off the court, it's a different vibe. And it's very clear that a lot of people in the WNBA love Caitlin Clark. And they've said before many times on the record, it's not good enough for a lot of people. I don't know why, but that they understand how much she has helped to elevate and grow this league.
Jemele, I thought you lived in D.C. or you spent some time in D.C. I don't know why.
I did at one point. I spent about, I lived in DC 6 months right before I left ESPN, but I've been here in LA since 2018.
Okay, because I was going to ask you. I thought I sent that putter to D.C. When I think about that address, but I was going to ask you about Trump holding up the deal. He says, I'm going to hold up the deal for the Washington Commanders to have to transform RFK Stadium into the new state, but you have to change the name back to the Redskins, which is never going to happen. But I wonder how people feel about that.
I think people are mostly like, why? I mean, it's just sort of
we don't have the black skins, we don't have the white skins, we don't have the yellow skins. The Redskins. It's a great. Listen. I don't think that many people were offended by it when it was happening. We just sort of we all grew up with it. But now that it's changed going back, I can't imagine that happens. What's that?
I said it depends on who you talk to. I mean, there were a great many Native Americans who were very offended by that name, and especially understandably.
But I didn't hear about it. I never heard the picketing. I never saw protesting. I never saw them organizing.
Well, yes, I did see organizing. There had been protesting before, much like with Kansas City. There's a lot of Native Americans who hate the headdress. They hate the garb because it is essentially turning them into mascots or basically caricatures. And yeah, it's kind of understandable why they would have a problem. What I will say, much like a lot of things that Donald Trump says, just because he says it doesn't mean it's legal. And the hoops that would have to be jumped through for them to change the name back in both Cleveland and their cases would be quite substantial. And so to me, it's just like, can you focus on running the country? Because nobody really asked you for this. Just focus on running the country. How about that?
Yeah. Jemele, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Anything else you need? A driver?
I'm actually good on the driver. So, but that putter is just money. Plus, it's sleek. I love the way it looks. It's like, it's the whole thing. Like I'm a fan of LA golf. I've seen a lot of people have asked me about the putter when I was on the course, so I made sure to tell them where I got it from. So thank you. Good looking out.
All right. Keep kicking his ass, Jemele Hill, right there. We appreciate it.